Verzeo. Learn here, lead anywhere. Subscribe to our Verzeo channel and tap the bell icon to receive all notifications. Download the Verzeo app and get free content access.
Hi guys, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Romit. This is Pratik here from Verzeo. I am your moderator and host for this event.
Hi
are you
Pratik, I'm good. I'm
doing?
good.
Great
How
to
are
have
you?
you here.
Yeah, no problem. It's a good opportunity, and I'm glad to be here as well. And do you know? Do we have an idea of how many people have approximately registered for this webinar?
I think someone from the ops would be able to answer that question.
Okay.
Event Verzeo there, I think they would be aware about it. I'm not sure really.
Okay. Let us keep the participants on mute. So the idea is to sort of run through the presentation in about 45 to 50 minutes and then open the forum for questions. And when I say questions, while I'll be talking, there would be a lot of people posting their questions on chat, right? Let them do that. And once in the last 10 minutes, we can answer some of those questions as well as I'm not too sure if we can open it up. If it's a large group, we can open up the microphones. That sometimes leads to a lot of chaos, even during office meetings. So I'm just a bit wary of that. But it's good to take the questions that come through chat. We can definitely answer some of those.
Now it's very much accessible. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Verzeo's GMAT webinar. We would be talking more. I think we will wait for some more people to come in and then we will start. It's just about 10:59.
Pratik, can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Do you, what do you see? Do you see the PPT with the first page?
Yes, GMAT, get to know it.
Okay, great.
All right, it's 11:05 and we shall begin. Will not take much time. Romit, if you could just put the presentation on the presentation mode where you can, where it's in full screen showing that. So then we can start off with that. I think it's the fourth button from the top left. Yes, that's the one. All right.
Just give me the presentation mode is creating a problem. I don't know. Try to maximize it. Let's get started and I'll figure it out. Okay?
Fine, no problem. No problem. I'll just give a start off to it then. Until then, all right. First off, welcome to you all. A very good morning on a Sunday morning. I'm really glad that you guys have come in and taken the time out to listen and to come and get an overview of the GMAT exams. A very top class examination that requires good amount of work. However, if there is good amount of dedication that is given, then definitely we'll be able to clear it. So to talk about that, we have Romit here. Top B schools around the world accept this examination. So definitely to crack it, I'm sure Romit will be able to help you out there. So let me give you an introduction and at the same time welcome him at the end of it. So Romit is presently director for product management at Riversand, and he's had about 14 years of experience in this field, about 10 years, almost a decade in the United States. This ranges from technology consulting and design of leading enterprise products. As a product management leader, he believes in delivering experiences to customers that raise the bar from an innovation, usability, and a control perspective. Owing to his technical background, he fits perfectly in the cusp of engineering and business. He is the best of both worlds, I would say. His experience ranges from different companies, that is Persistent Systems, Sears Holding Corporation, CME Group, and the world famous British oil company, that's BP. Right now, like I said, he is in Riverside. And since he's worked for multiple Fortune 100 companies in the US for almost a decade, like I said, he's also completed his MBA from the prestigious IIM Ahmedabad. So, like he's mentioned out in his profile, that the best of both worlds out there. He's a product management leader, and that comes from his engineering background, and also the MBA part of it brings his business knowledge out there. So he has a compelling understanding of markets and customer behavior, and his rich experience in project management brings configuration, build, and release management technologies and processes. So, apart from that, as a person, he's very creative, he's a storyteller, and a passionate data driven decision maker. Um, Also, he is customer centric. So, I would like to welcome Romit. Uh, Formally to take over the dais and conduct the meeting. I'm pretty sure we have a lot to learn from you. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Prateek, for the nice words. Good morning and welcome everyone to this webinar hosted by Versio on the topic of basically getting to know the GMAT, right? I can, before I begin, can you guys confirm if you are able to see my screen, and are you able to see the opening page for the slide that says GMAT, get to know it, or are you seeing something else? Because I've got multiple screens. I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right one. Hello, Prateek, anybody?
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay, great. So we'll try and go through the presentation in about, let's say, about 45 minutes, and whatever remaining time we have, we'll try and answer some questions directly from the participants. As I said, welcome again, and we'll try and give you an overview of. We'll go through some interesting topics, like why do you want to do an MBA in the first place, and I think that is important to hash out before you go to the next question, which is why the GMAT, and then what is the GMAT, right? What is the exam format? We'll talk a little bit about that, and typically how much time do you need to prepare? This is one question that I get very frequently from aspirants, right? And the final and most important question is, how can Versio help you in that journey, right? So let us begin. Yeah, I think Prateek has already given a very detailed introduction about me, and thanks for the kind words. They're more than what I deserve, but yeah, I currently work as a director of product in a enterprise product company that is based in Houston, and I also am a GMAT coach. I help aspirants prepare for the GMAT. And once they take the GMAT, I also help them in the subsequent journey of writing the essays, the interview preparation, and many of my students have gone to do their MBA from the US, from Europe, from UK, from Canada, from Australia, from New Zealand, and even the likes of, let's say, IMA, BEC, ISB. So yeah, I've got a fair bit of experience doing that. It's something that I like to do as my passion, giving back to prospective students and making their dream come true. So I hope this helps you guys as well. Now, before, as I said, it's important to know why you want to do an MBA in the first place, right? So, we often talk about getting to taking the GMAT, taking the CAT, or taking any other form of competitive exam to get to your school of choice, your school of dreams. But why the GMAT? And especially many of you who are planning to take the GMAT, they probably want to, let's say, eventually see yourself somewhere in a US business school, in a European business school. Of course, a lot of Indian schools are do accept the GMAT. And those programs are equally popular, right? They are ranked in the top 50 in the world. These are my sort of takeaways about why you want to do the MBAs, basically to be future ready, right? So when I spoken with MBA alumni and executives, I hear the importance of future ready skills, right? So what does this really mean? And especially after the pandemic, right? Especially after the COVID situation, companies are looking to come out of this situation stronger than they were before by pivoting and adjusting their business models, right? The skills many organizations are looking for range from empathy and team management to understand how to look ahead, set strategy goals. And in that, they look for students with diverse backgrounds, right? And MBA is one such experience that helps you hone those unique skills, right? So it is that is the reason it's important to be future ready, especially given the situation that we are in, and what companies are looking at when they want to come out of this situation. Of course, exploring new industries and functions, that is another reason that I find a lot of students who aspirants who want to take the GMAT. Many of you probably have a few years of experience under your belt. You're probably mostly working somewhere. You probably have 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, all the way. I've seen people up to 10, 11, 12 years of experience take the GMAT and get into do their MBA. So if you are looking to make a career pivot, an MBA may help you face that challenge. I've known people from manufacturing who have gotten into high tech. I've known doctors who have gotten into management consulting post their MBAs. I've known bank managers who have started their own ventures, right? So it really helps you pivot your career into a new direction. Now, the third reason would be to accelerate your career path. Not all of us are looking to change their track, right? But maybe you want to stay in your own, let's say, in the present company or the same domain, in the same field of work. But we have often seen, and this is a report from the National College and Employees Association in the US, that in the year 2020, they saw MBA grads in the class of 2020, this last year, even during pandemic, commanding a salary of 20,000 on an average, $20,000 more than a regular undergrad with a business degree, right? So MBA is commanding $20,000 more than the market rate. So that is, and that translates into all geographies. That translates into in India as well, in Europe, in UK, everywhere. Of course, the very important reason to get into a great business school is to sort of expand and diversify your network, right? A part of enrolling in business school is becoming a part of a community of future leaders and connected alumni. Most MBA programs offer access to network programs that are hosted by clubs and employers, as well as affinity networks, student-led conferences, right? Basically, all opportunities that could help you expand your reach and basically help you become successful in the business world. So these are some of the right reasons of doing an MBA. Why you shouldn't be doing an MBA? I mean, if you're not very clear about your objectives, I mean, MBA is not that sort of magic pill, right? You can't swallow the MBA pill, and it's not a golden ticket that will automatically admit you to higher paying jobs with bigger responsibilities. I mean, it's not. It takes passion, proactivity, and hard work to expand your knowledge and skills. Right? It takes years. Even after you graduate, even after you have your degree, it will take a lot of time to sort of put in that hard work and network with the right people, get yourself the right projects, and deliver the right results before you see before you reap the benefits of doing an MBA from a top tier business school, right? And definitely don't do it if you're like if MBA often forces a huge amount of financial burden on students, whether you're doing it from India. Even if you do it from ISB today, for instance, ISB MBA cost you about 30 plus lakhs, 33 lakhs. It's not an ordinary sum of money by any stretch of imagination. Even the 1 year programs at IMA BC, they'll cost you somewhere close to 30 lakhs, a little less than 30 lakhs, but very, very close to 30 lakhs. So it's a huge financial setback, right? And I don't call it as a setback. I call it as an investment into your future. But you need to be all into the game to make sure that you really want this. And people who are all into this game, only those are the people who come out of the program with a degree in hand, with that scroll of paper, which also means something more than just a scroll of paper. That means a lot of experience, a lot of networking, a lot of additional skills that you have acquired, a lot of soft skills, a lot of, let's say, very critical strategic skills that you've acquired that you are ready to apply in your work life later on, right? And definitely do not apply to business school. Let's say if you're bored at work, you're stuck at a dead end job, and you think that this is one way out. Because if you're stuck at a dead end job right now, which means that you're probably not proactive enough, you're probably not asking your manager for another project where you could be more successful, right? So there are other ways to just sort of solve those little problems, right? Of course, MBA can help you catapult your career, but basically you need to get into this program, get into this game with the right mindset. That is all I'm talking about, right? So yeah, I was able to put my presentation in presentation mode. Let's get to, now that we are clear about, okay, once you are clear about why the MBA, now the question is why the GMAT, and what is the GMAT? Well, when you're thinking about MBA around the world, right, the GMAT, which is the Graduate Management Admission Test, which is administered by the Graduate Management Admission Council, which is often called GMAC, is basically a computer adaptive test, right? It tests the candidates' analytical writing skills, quantitative skills, verbal skills, and reading skills in standard written English. I would say mostly American English, because the GMAC is an American company. The test, this is pretty much, this is the most widely accepted exam for MBA admissions worldwide. Like no other exam has as wide as a network as GMAT, right? So about, I think 7,000 programs across 2,300 schools accept GMAT scores for giving admission. So talk about all the top tier programs across the world, all your Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, Booth, Kellogg, Duke, right? Your UCLA, every program in the US, and in fact, all the programs in Europe and UK, Australia, New Zealand, even as I said, India, Singapore, NCR, Singapore, and NUS, all of them accept the GMAT, right? So this is pretty much your gateway to get into a great business school. But this is the first step. This is the first of many steps. Don't just think that if you crack the GMAT, get a great score, that's the end. That's your ticket to a great business school. The admission process in American schools, in most schools across the world, is much more holistic. So once you have taken the GMAT, there's a process of applying to each business school individually, where you are asked to write a couple of essays. You're asked to submit your statement of purpose. You have to take multiple rounds of interviews with the admission committee before you make an impression which is good enough for them to make sure that you are fit for their incoming class of so and so year, right? So nonetheless, GMAT is still a very important step. And whatever you have done in your past, let's say you do not have a great academic background. A lot of us do not have a great academic background. You cannot change that. But what you can change is put in a lot of hard work and get a great GMAT score, and put the right foot forward, like put your best foot forward into the application process. Right? Because I've seen students with not great academic backgrounds, but they have been able to do really well by getting a great GMAT score, and I've seen many of them getting into top tier MBA programs in the US or anywhere else, right? So the first step is to prepare well for the GMAT and take the GMAT and ace the GMAT, right? So now that we have spoken about what the GMAT is, it's basically a computer adaptive test, and I'll talk more about what a computer adaptive test is. It is a test that adapts to the way you're taking the exam, and we'll get into more details, more in-depth analysis of what a computer adaptive test is. But it could be beyond the scope of this webinar. As we talk about the GMAT more in subsequent webinars, we can explain more about how the GMAT algorithm works. We are not discussing that today. But let us move forward and see at a very high level what does the GMAT exam structure look like, right? So currently there are these pretty much these 4 sections that you will come across called the analytical writing assessment. It's in short form, you can remember it as AWA henceforth. Basically, you're asked to write one essay there. A situation would be given and you'll be asked to present your thoughts in a very cogent and logical, practical way, and write an essay of, let's say, 500 words. Uh, arguing the sort of the benefits, I mean, basically they'll give you a situation and you have to analyze the situation. It's an analysis form of a question, right? So you're given 30 minutes to write that essay, and it's scored on a scale of 1 to 6. And then you have the integrated reasoning, which is a multiple choice question which comprises of different types of questions. These are, let's say, 2-part analysis, multi-source reasoning, some graphical interpretation, some table analysis. Maybe you're given a pie chart, a bar graph, and you're presented data from, let's say, a company's financial performance for a certain year. And based on those, let's say, tabular data or graphical data, some subsequent questions are asked and you have to answer those questions. And for that also you get 30 minutes and it's scored on a scale of 1 to 8, right? Now remember, these analytical writing assessment and IR, these 2 sections, these are mandatory sections, you have to take them. And these, you also get, let's say, scores on them, but they are not counted towards your score of 800. The score of 800 is GMAT, the score that you get on GMAT is out of 800, right? So if you get 800, you've basically gotten a 100 percentile score, right? Very few people get it. I probably personally know just one person in my entire network of 5,000 people on LinkedIn that has a score of 800, but they didn't even go to business school. That's the interesting part. So now comes the 2 important sections, the elephant in the room, the quantitative and the verbal section. The quantitative section that has problems, the 2 types of problems, data sufficiency and problem solving. And we are again not going to get into the depths of what a data sufficiency problem solving is. We'll probably tackle that in subsequent webinars. But quantitative pretty much has 31 questions and 62 minutes, which basically means that you get 2 minutes per question to solve. And trust me, it's enough if you practice it the right way. These questions are all at the difficulty level of, let's say, your standard 9, standard 10, like of an ICSE or CBSE or state board curriculum. So there's nothing to worry about. You are not going to be asked calculus. You're not going to be asked trigonometry. You're not going to be asked, let's say, complex algebra, right? Complex numbers, nothing of, if you're from a science background, if you have studied engineering, there's no engineering maths. There's not even standard 11, 12 maths. There's no calculus, differentiation, integration, nothing of that sort, because this exam is designed for everyone. A history major can take it, an arts major can take it, a philosophy major can take it, a criminal psychology major can take it, an engineer can take it. So they have to design the exam at a level that is suitable for everyone. So this is basically the standard of a high school student in America, right? So definitely something that we can easily manage with some degree of discipline, some degree of hard work, all of that. And the verbal section. So the verbal section has 36 questions. You have skills that will test your reading comprehension skills, critical reasoning skills, sentence correction skills. 36 questions, about 65 minutes. I would say a minute and a half for each question, right? And again, it's enough. As I said, if you practice well, if you put in the right, let's say, right type of practice, it's very important. Not just the hours of practice. How are you practicing is very important. And both this quantitative and verbal scores are scored on a raw scale of 6 to 51. And the quantitative and verbal scores are the ones that count towards your score of 800. Those are the only 2 sections that count towards your score of 800. Currently, the AWA and IR are not counted towards your score of 800, right? Then many students ask, in that case, what is the purpose of having the AW and IR sections? So there are multiple purposes of having this, and nobody has a very clear answer on it, including the GMAC. They don't publish a very clear answer on this. But there are multiple reasons. Couple of reasons that I know personally, and I know, let's say, having say really studied this exam, the nature of this exam, and spoken to a few adcoms, is that, for instance, you get two candidates. There's, let's say, one last seat left in a B school, right? And there are two candidates who have got the exact same score on the quant, on verbal, they have the exact total score, right? On the GMAT. Let's say they both have a 720 on the GMAT, and their overall background profile, their statement of purpose, their essays, their letters of recommendation, everything is, let's say, on par with each other. There is no way to sort of distinguish the two candidates. The ADCOM could then look at their IR or AWA reports or scores to break the tie, right? To basically find out which candidate has better integrated reasoning and AWA scores, right? Skills, basically. And they might be a better fit in their class, incoming class, right? So that might be one of the reasons. The second reason is often what the GMAT does is, when they try, let's say, they'll try and introduce these, let's say, sections which are scored but not counted towards a score of 800, right? You'll get a score for AW and IR, but as I said, these are not counted towards your score of 800. So what they do is, they will have people's scores, right? They have a massive database, and what they also do is they'll correlate that the scores of IR and AWA with your performance in B school. Let's say they'll try and find out a correlation that if you scored very high on integrated reasoning, did you also do really well in B school? Did you do well in all your subjects that needed high degree of critical reasoning, logical thinking? If yes, I'm just saying if yes, and I'm not saying that is the case. Maybe down the line, maybe 5 years down the line, they might make integrated reasoning as a mandatory section, where that is also going to count towards your score of 800. Or what they could also do is, they could introduce some integrated reasoning type of questions into your main quantitative section, right? So these are the way they try and sort of experiment with these sections. Right now, these two are sections that are scored but not counted towards your total of 800, right? So essentially, if you got a great quant and verbal score, you get a 750, 760 score, but you do not have a very good AW and IR score, I would pretty much, I mean, I'm trying to grossly generalize here. In most cases, you don't have anything to worry about. If your quant and verbal score, the last two rows, those are good enough, and you don't have a great AW and IR score, there's not too much to worry about, because pretty much they are not counted. Does that mean you deliberately sort of mess it up in exam and you do not pay a lot of attention? No, I would definitely not do that. Try and focus on that as well. But the primary preparation has to be on the last two rows, quantitative and verbal, right? So, I mean, the chat, I think we have the chat open. So just keep posting your questions. We'll try and answer some of your questions at the end, right? Let me just get through the presentation initially. Right. So what happens right now, and right now, as I said, the 28th of February today, right now, if you go and take the GMAT at a center, and GMAT exams are administered in centers which are Pearson VUE centers, right? These are proctored. Many of you might have taken certification exams there for your, let's say, technology parts or something else. So these are Pearson VUE centers which administer the GMAT. So if you take an in-center, so in-center GMAT, and I'll talk about why I'm talking of an in-center GMAT, because very recently, the GMAT has also introduced an in-home GMAT, like they call it the online GMAT. Why they have introduced this is primarily because of COVID. 2020 saw us, I mean, we couldn't go out, we couldn't go out of our house, couldn't travel, couldn't take transport. Therefore, GMAT, the Graduate Management Admission Council, has come up with a new live, online GMAT thing, right? That online GMAT thing you can take from home, and we'll talk about it in subsequent slides, right? Just wait, just give me some time. But if you, but the in-center GMAT is still open today. You can go to a Pearson VUE center and take the GMAT from there. In that, when you go to a center, and when you begin your GMAT session, right, you'll get these three options, right? these the options of taking the GMAT. The option one is, let's say you take your AWA and IR, right? And then you have a break of 8 minutes. And then you take a quant, again, you have a break of 8 minutes, and then you take a verbal, right? Or you have the option of taking the verbal first, then you have the optional break. And these breaks are optional, by the way. This is an 8-minute break and it's optional. So if you do not want to take the break, you can just inform your proctor and they can allow you to start the next section right away. Some people do want to take that optional break. Maybe they want to take a bio break, go to the washroom. They want to just drink some water. They want to, let's say regain their confidence, just take a break to chill, right? Just an 8-minute break though. So you have a verbal, you can take the verbal and then take a break. Then you can take the quant, then take a break, and then you have to take the IR and then AWA. There is no break between the IR and AWA. These are together. And the option 3, of course, quant, break, verbal, break, IR, AWA. So these are the 3 options, and these out of these 3 options, you need to select which mode, which option you plan to take your exam at the beginning of the exam, right? So you have to select the mode at the beginning of the exam, right? So these are the 3 options right now. However, if you take the online GMAT right now, which is sitting at home, you do not have an option. The only option available to you is a standard rigid option, right? We'll talk about that later on. And also the other thing is you don't have to take the AWS section in the live, in the online GMAT today, right? There is no AWS section in the online GMAT today. However, there's a surprise coming for all of you. And if you are aware of, if you're keeping track of GMAT, things are going to change from 8th of April 2021. So some of the very common questions, I've put them all here. How many sections are there on the GMAT? By now, you know, 4 sections, right? 2 of them count towards your score of 800. 2 of them you get a score, but they do not count towards your score of 800. What is the eligibility criterion? An often asked question by many aspirants. Of course, you have to be 18 years of age. There's no upper age limit for the candidate. Educational qualification, GMAC, the body that administers the GMAT, right, has not announced any official statement regarding qualifications. And candidates who wish to enroll for MBA program should possess a graduate degree in any discipline from a recognized university. Now, I'll touch upon a particular subject that comes, question that comes across very often is, what does a graduate program mean? Like, if I do a BA, BCom, which in India is typically a 3-year program, versus an engineering, right, which is a 4-year program. Both are graduate programs, but is a 3-year program accepted as widely as a 4-year program? Now, the GMAC itself doesn't pose a limitation, or they don't provide a guideline on that. But there are, because the GMAC is just administering the test. They have an algorithm, they have the question bank, they'll help you take the test, and they'll assess you and give you a score. Now, beyond that, you have to take that score and apply individually to every program, every school, every B school. You have to apply individually. Now, when you apply individually, the prerequisites, right? The criteria for applying, how different schools define the baccalaureate program, which is what they call in the US, or an undergrad program, a bachelor's program. It's a little different. The good news is many programs, many top tier programs in the US these days, they are accepting the 3-year undergraduate program from India. So they are accepting that as a valid undergraduate program. Many years back, when I was taking the GMAT, even before that, the 4-year program was the only acceptable undergrad program, recognized undergraduate program from India. But these days, many top tier business schools are accepting the 3-year program as well. Now, how many sections are there on the GMAT? In-center versus GMAT online. So these are the 2 modes. GMAT online is basically something that GMAT has come up with to deal with COVID situation. So currently the in-center section has 4 sections, right? The online section has 3 sections. The online section doesn't have 1 section that the in-center section has, which is that is the AWS section, right? And because there is no AWA, which is the analytical writing assessment in the online GMAT online type of exam, the duration of that is 30 minutes less, right? So the in-center lasts for about 3 hours, 7 minutes. So basically, if I go back and if you add the durations, right? If you add the 30 plus 30 plus 62 plus 65, it comes to about 3 hours, 187 minutes basically. So it's like 3 hours, 7 minutes. Whereas if you reduce 30 minutes from there, it's basically 2 hours, 37 minutes, right? There's an asterisk right next to it. The asterisk is to call out that this is, however, changing from the 8th of April 2021, where the GMAT online is going to have AWA as well. So the GMAT online and the GMAT in center are going to be exactly same, right? The same duration, same number of sections. Now the final question, of course, there are multiple questions. I have put together some very common ones. How much time is required to prep for the GMAT? This is one question that I get from pretty much every student, every aspirant. Now, this is a very subjective answer, to be very honest. Like the time you need to prepare is very unique to you. It depends on what level of preparation you are already at, right? While, I mean, we do not know what might be the exact time, we can give you some statistics around what others might have, how much time others might have taken, right? And we also have data, right? And this data is gathered by the Graduate Management Admission Council, the GMAC, right? That administers GMAT. They have collected a lot of data. Some of it is self-reported, but nonetheless, it's very, I would say, it's quite accurate. They know that the successful business school candidates gives themselves about 3 to 6 months of time to prepare for the GMAT, which is why you'll see later on that we have designed, Versio has designed the program appropriately, keeping this data in mind, right? So as I said, the time required to prep for the GMAT, this is pretty much the data that is presented by GMAC today. So they have put together what is the distribution in a pie chart, right? So you would see that the largest sector in that circle is 28% and 27%, right? The 28% is that 51 to 100 hours, right? So I would say pretty much that is the sort of, I mean, that is a sort of time most candidates take, although 27% indicates that some people might take 100 hours as well, right? So and this, even if they take 100 hours, or let's say somewhere between 51 to 100 hours, right, the distribution, I mean, pretty much if you even that out across months, you will find that it pans across 4 months, because most of the people who take the GMAT are working professionals. So what they typically are able to do is maybe an hour a day throughout the weekdays, and let's say a couple of hours or 2 to 3 hours during the Saturdays and Sundays, right? So if you put all of that together, that's approximately 4 months of 4 months of effort, right? And the median total study hours by self-reported GMAT score, as you see, people who have got it 700 plus scores, they have studied for approximately 90 hours, right? So and 90 hours is like a lot of time, and this is time. Sometimes you combine the time that you're putting at a, let's say, GMAT prep center plus your self-study time, right? I mean, we'll talk about very detailed study plans, right? How do you exactly prepare? What are the prep strategies? What are the areas that you begin with? What are the exact topics that you begin with? In quant, in verbal, but that is not the scope of today's discussion. It's a much further down the line sort of a discussion. But it's important to know your own capabilities, your own, I mean, figure out something that works for you, and based on your lifestyle, based on what kind of job you have, right? And it's important to know your own abilities and skill level, and based on that, let's say if you are, let's say, somebody with an English honors from a Delhi university, let's say a Gargi or Miranda, I'm just saying, you might be really good in English, for instance, from St. Xavier's English honors, you might be really good in English. In that case, maybe you figure out that quant is not your strong suit, and you put more effort on quant, right? Or if you are an engineer, I often find engineers find the quant section easier, but they find the verbal section a little more difficult. So accordingly put more stress or more effort on the verbal section as well, because you need to do good in both sections to have a good GMAT score, right? So I'll quickly run through this. The number of attempts, you can take the GMAT once every 16 calendar days. So if you take a GMAT today and you do not score well, you can take the GMAT again on the 16th of March, for instance, right? Not that it's advisable, because if you have, let's say, not scored well on the GMAT, I don't think within 15 days you are going to do, let's say, a lot of change in your preparation, in your strategy, so that you can see a much better score. It's ideally better to wait for, let's say, give yourself another couple of months, at least 1.5 months, I would say, before you take the second attempt, right? You will not take more than 5 attempts in a 12-month period. Of course, we are hoping that most of you, I've seen most, like, taking 2 attempts is quite reasonable and quite common. Like most people do not get to their desired GMAT score on their first attempt, which is okay. So you can give it a couple of more months and then take it again, and that's quite normal, because this is an investment of a lifetime, right? So you want to get the right GMAT score, great GMAT score, and get into your school of choice, right? And you may not take more than 8 attempts in a lifetime. I don't know how valid this rule still is. We need to figure that out, but this is currently on the GMAX website. And of course, if you score a perfect score of 800, which is the highest possible score, you have to wait another 5 years for your next attempt. I hope some of you score that score. It's an elusive score, but definitely if you put in the right effort, you can get there, right? Now, as I was saying, this is a very important part that I was mentioning, that there's another format of the GMAT. When I took the GMAT, we did not have this option. And of course, this option just came about last year, right? Due to COVID-19 pandemic, many of the in-center based GMAT exam had to be suspended. So the Graduate Management Admission Council, what they thought is we need to allow people to take the GMAT from home. But coming up with such a program takes a lot of time, because it's a proctored exam. Like they have to come up with the logistical issues, with the legal issues, with the operational issues. All of that has to be managed. So they finally released on April 15th, 2020. They announced the release of the GMAT online exam, where the online exam, you can take it from the comfort of your home. Your video has to be on. There will be somebody proctoring you at the other side of the video. They will be watching you at all times. So I'll say it out, because a lot of people have it on their mind that, okay, who ensures the integrity of the exam? If can people cheat? No, they definitely cannot cheat, because the video is going to be on. You have to show your room to the proctor before you begin, and you cannot look away from the computer screen. You cannot have anybody else in the room. So pretty much all the integrity is ensured, and there are no loopholes. I have come up with a quick chart, the 3 options, right? The 3 formats of the GMAT. So GMAT in-center, I've already spoken about, 31 quant, 36 verbal questions. You've got the AW and IR section as well. Now you also have the choice of section ordering, like in which order. Remember one slide we spoke about the 3 options, like in which order you want to take the 3 sections. You have that in the GMAT in-center. You do not have that in the GMAT online as of today. So in the middle pillar that you see here, the GMAT online before 8th of April 2021, you do not have that choice. Today, right now on 28th of February, if you take the GMAT online today, sitting at home, the order that you need to follow is quantitative, verbal, and then IR, right? And there is no, and they have the same, like each section has the same number of questions, but there will be no AW, as I said. And in contrast to the GMAT in center, like if you take the GMAT at the center, what you will get is the score of 800, which is your informal score. You will get it immediately. The IR score and the AWS score, the essay score, those will come later to you with the official score, along with the official score that arrives in 7 working days, 7 business days. Currently, if you take the GMAT online, you will not even get a unofficial score. Your final scores are going to arrive at once to you, email to your address or your email actually, in 7 working days, 7 business days. But all this is changing. So that is why, I mean, most of you who are going to take the GMAT are probably going to take it mostly after the 18th of April, right? So after the 8th of April. So after the 8th of April, the on GMAT online and the GMAT in center, the left and the rightmost, they are going to look exactly the same, right? So I mean, I still had this slide just to bring out the differences. So having said that, I mean, those are pretty much the sort of things that you need to be aware of, let's say at a 10,000 feet level about the GMAT. We are not getting into the uh, the much in-depth levels of quant and verbal. What you need to prepare, we'll get to it in subsequent discussions. Uh, this is, as I said, many of the decisions that Versio has come up with, right? Grooming for the GMAT in just 80 plus hours. So if you've seen my previous slides about that 80-90 hours is a sweet spot, right? For you to sort of prepare for the GMAT. Trust me, if you take much long, if you take maybe 6 months to prepare for the GMAT, you will lose steam, like you'll be frustrated. You'll probably feel that this is, oh my God, this is a never ending journey for me. So I mean, I'm getting frustrated. How much longer is this going to continue? So about 80 to 90 hours is that sweet spot. Put in your heart and soul into it during those 3 months, 3 to 4 months. So 4 months of preparation is what I would say, right? That comes out to about 80 hours. And we'll be with you along the way. We'll help you with study plans, GMAT books, full length tests, right, to prep you correctly for the GMAT. Prateek, at this point, do you want to come in and sort of talk about the Versio offering a little bit more?
Yeah, I'll do that. So like sir said, like Romit said, that in 80 plus hours over the course of 4 months is your ideal time for you to prepare for this examination. Our course is also modeled in the same way, that is for you to go ahead and prepare for it. Like that's mentioned on the slides, there are tips that will be provided by our mentors, much more extensive, like how Romit provided a great insight today. The study plans would be curated for them. The GMAT books that would be required for that, the study material that you would be required for you to study would be delivered to you at your home. And there'll be 3 full-length tests that you would be able to take prior to your examination, which will help you assess your performance and you'll be able to see how well you are doing along with it. And of course, we would be throughout with you along the way. So the launch offer that's there is for 25,000, and the pre-registration amount is 7,000. Of course, this 25,000 can be spread across in an EMI option, zero cost EMI option as well. You can see the link down there. That's versio.in/gmat-coaching. You can go and see this for more details. Like I said, these 80 plus hours are divided over 4 months. So, well, it's really parallelly your classes as well as your preparation, as suggested by Romit sir, would be ideal for you to crack a great score. The testimony is right in front of you. He's explained that so well. I think there's nothing more than your dedication, right? There are no barriers for past history of bad marks, maybe a poor performance in your undergraduation. It is really your dedication, and there is no rocket science. From what sir is saying, there is no rocket science in completing this, right? So, all right, that's on my end with regards to Versio's offering. Is there anything else you would like to add, Romit, so that we can, if not, then we can go ahead with the questions?
No, as you rightly pointed out, I guess there's a lot of misinformation about the GMAT today, right? People think that it's for people who have exceedingly well academic background. Absolutely not. And the GMAT score, if you put in the right effort, as I said, the material that is tested, the level of difficulty is pretty much standard, about standard 8, 9, and 10. So your concepts need to be very clear. that is definitely one thing that GMAT will demand of you, because if you are trying to get into a top tier MBA program, right, you need to be very good. Your reasoning skills, your critical reasoning skills, your quantitative abilities, your ability to articulate a certain problem, your ability to present your problem to the right audience in the right way, all those skills are very important, and that is why they have come up with the format that we have today, right? Elementary, I would call it elementary mathematics, right? So 8, 9, 10 is something that we have all studied. We just need to polish those really well, work really hard, and work with the right material and the right set of people to make sure that you have a great GMAT score. And beyond that, of course, we'll also work with you on your essays, with your and help you with the other stuff as well, to make sure that you set foot in the business school of your choice. So having said that, I am okay to take some questions. I don't know, Pratik, do you have some questions?
There are some questions on the chat window. We will just take them one by one.
Okay.
Just a minute. Do IIM, we have Arpit Shukla who has asked, do IIMs also accept GMAT score for the MBA program?
Yes, they do. All the IIMs for the last 15 to 20 years, they have been running the 1 year program. These are all full-time programs, and you get a full-time degree like the 2-year MBAs do, right? There is no, you don't get a different degree. It's the same program. It's taught by the same professors. In fact, the 1 year program at IIM A, B, and C are ranked higher in the world. As per Financial Times ranking, they're ranked higher in the world than the 2-year program. So the 2-year program, I mean, this is sort of a massive sort of information that you'll receive today. The 2-year program, the 2-year MBA that you get from the IIMs, they are not ranked in the top 100, right? Because the reason is that most of the world believes that you cannot just graduate to an undergraduate degree and get an MBA. MBA is basically an experiential learning kind of a program. So you need certain years of experience under your belt before you get into do your management program. So yes, the PGPX program is one of the highest ranked in the world. So is the PGP program from IIM Bangalore, and the PGPEX program from IIM Calcutta. These are extremely some of the most competitive and very, very difficult to get into. Yes, they do accept the GMAT. Yes. So does ISB. Yes. So those pretty much in India, if you're looking at, of course, there are options beyond these ABC. IIM Lucknow, of course, has their IPMX program, which is also very good. Yeah, so you can look at the few top IIMs and ISB, of course, all of them accept the GMAT.
Yeah. So I would like to follow it up with the next question, which is similar to what you just answered right now. That is, of course, IIMB, I mean, all the IIMs and ISB, which would consist in our Tier 1 Indian business schools. So we have Deepshika, who's asked, how many Tier 1 Indian business schools accept GMAT scores? And what should be a good score range to get into these schools? Also, if you could just throw, I think just in a minute, maybe even what these Tier 1 business schools would mean in India, apart from IIMs.
Yeah, see, Tier 1, Tier 2, there are so many different kinds of ranking, right? So Economic Times has their own ranking. The AAMBA has a different ranking. So I would say, based on my experience, the Tier 1, Tier 2 is I mean, these are perceptional evaluation, right? I would say if you are planning to take the GMAT, the IIM A, B, C, IIM Lucknow, IIM Indore, IIM Kozhikode, like these, the original 6 IIMs, their 1 year programs are still very competitive. I would also consider, of course, ISB. ISB is currently the top ranked program in the recently Financial Times ranking of 2021. So these 6 plus ISB, these would be your Tier 1 programs, right? even in the tier one, there would be, let's say, there would be certain, let's say, I mean, it's a continuous spectrum. I mean, you cannot say that, I mean, more, and I'm saying by perception. By perception, most of the people believe that IIM ABC would be better than the remaining three IIMs. So these are perceptions. I'm not saying the quality of the programs are bad in the other IIMs, but pretty much IIM ABC, when it comes to having the perception of brand equity, they have, of course, the best brand equity, and so does ISB in terms of the GMAT. So these about 5-6 programs in India, these could be considered top tier in terms of GMAT, right? That accept the GMAT programs. How many total schools accept the GMAT program? I don't think anybody has that number. There are more and more schools right now who are trying to come up. Great Lakes, for instance, SP Jain, a lot of these other schools are currently accepting the GMAT. They are also really good schools. I know some really good friends of mine, rather juniors of mine, who have done their 1-year MBA from Great Lakes, have done their 1-year MBA from SP Jain. See, some of the so this is a cultural barrier. Actually, it is a cultural barrier that we have. We all think that MBA is a 2-year program, but if you look at the top tier MBA programs all over the world, you talk about INSEAD, which is INSEAD Paris, right? Fontainebleau in Paris. That was pretty much the top ranked MBA program the last 3 years, like back to back, consecutively top. It's a 10-month program. It's a barely 11th month program. London Business School, right? Oxford, Side Business School, Judge Cambridge. Every business school in the UK and Europe, they're pretty much 1-year programs. In fact, even the US has started 1-year programs. Kellogg is one such program. It's a top tier program. So they all accept the GMAT. In US, of course, it's not a problem whether it's 2-year, 1-year, executive, part-time, evening, everything accepts GMAT. Even the same in Europe. India, we have recently started accepting the GMAT. As I said, I don't have a total list of all schools that accept the GMAT. I'm pretty sure you can find that information from somewhere. But these are some of the schools that are named in India. These are pretty much the good schools where you ideally want to go after having worked for a few years. If you're spending your hard-earned money, if you're spending that 20, 25 lakhs, 30 lakhs, you might want to invest into a top tier program only. There's no point in investing in a tier 2 program, because after graduating from a tier 2 program, you might get a salary, or you might, let's say, get a career path, which is not that satisfactory. So that radical change that you want in your career path, that pivot that you want, can only be attained by getting into a top tier program. And as I said, I named a few IIMs, I named ISB, I named maybe Great Lakes, SP Jain. These can be considered top tier.
Yeah. Thank you so much once again. Last 5 minutes, by 12:05, we'll wrap it up since we started by then. There are 3 questions. 2 I can combine. 1 I'd like to put out there. There's Kata Ganesh who's asked, is GMAT enough, or are there any other exams to be taken in parallel with GMAT to get into MBA?
Yeah, so if you're planning to go abroad, let's say if you're planning to go to the US or Europe, right, for your MBA, you have to probably take the TOEFL as well. Now there is a caveat there as well, right? Now, see, the GMAT is of course absolutely 100% required, right? If you're planning to get into a full-time MBA, GMAT is required. TOEFL, there are certain schools that will give you a TOEFL waiver, because if you have done your undergrad from a university where the medium of instruction was English, they might give you a waiver. But pretty much the TOEFL is also required if you plan to study, if you plan to do your MBA from the US or Europe or UK or Australia or New Zealand, pretty much the English speaking countries. Right. So, but there are waivers that are given by individual business school. Right. GMAT doesn't mandate it. GMAT is only considered only concerned with the GMAT, but business schools individually can have mandates or they can have a waiver for the TOEFL. So TOEFL is the test of English as foreign language, which is a very basic elementary test of English that tests your reading skills, writing skills, talking skills, listening skills. These are the 4 skills that it tests. It's a test of about three hours, And again, you have to go to a Pearson VUE Center to take it. It's scored out of 120 points, but we are not talking of TOEFL here. But as I said, if you want to do your MBA from abroad, most of the times you have to, like 90% of times you might have to take the TOEFL.
Yeah, thank you so much for that as well. Just the last one now, and we will close. That is from Yash Paliwal and with regards to Shashank Sharma. Both of them have asked a very similar question. Is there any ideal / minimum amount of work experience required to get admission in international MBA programs, or would it increase the chances of getting the desired B school?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, most, as I was saying, right, in most American universities, most European universities, they would ideally like you to have about at least 3 to 4 years of work experience before you apply, right? Anything. Now, there is a sweet spot as well. If you go to any class, if you go to the sort of incumbent class of 2021 today, right, to any business school in the US, you will find that most of them are in the age of, let's say, 26, 27, 28 years of age, which means they have about 4 or 5 years of experience, maybe 6 years of experience. You might find people younger than that, or you might find some people older than that, right? You might find people in their 30s, early 30s, mid 30s as well, some even 40s, right? So it depends. But yeah, it's good if you have a few years of experience, definitely good, right? You could have anywhere between 3 to 10 years of experience. I've seen many Indian candidates apply with that kind of experience to American and European business school. So yeah, it is good. Whether it's a clear advantage, if you have more on that spectrum, if you have 10 versus 3, that is completely dependent on the AdCom, on how they perceive you. There's no clear, true answer to it. But yeah, a few years of experience under your belt is good.
All right. Thank you. And we will close the floor for questions and as well as the webinar. Thank you. I could not thank you enough, Romit. Really very insightful. There are comments coming in from the chat box where that are echoing the same thing that I said. It has been very helpful also. You gave a very logical explanation to such a very complicated doubt or confusion that people have in minds. A very logical and easy and understandable solution to something like this. I'm pretty sure if they make use of it with the right advice, right preparation, and of course, some additional things like work experience and making the right choice of the B school as well as the career that they've chosen, I'm pretty sure that we have a great future out ahead for this. Thank you so much once again, Romit, and we hope to make more impactful experiences for students. You shared, I remember saying that you help students and you believe in making that impact for them to reach out to their careers. We as an organization also believe in the same. We're a young, dynamic organization and are very serious about making careers for our fellow students and also the ones younger than us. Thank you very much. One last thing, fellows, I have put in a feedback link on the chat box. Please give a feedback, no matter how good, no matter how bad. It'll help us do better next time. And at the same time, if you liked it, it'll help us appreciate the people who helped this, who helped organize this. That is our team. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Romit. Anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you so much. It was great sharing some of the knowledge that I have with aspirants, and I wish all of you the best of luck. And I guess this is sort of the beginning of many webinars that we will have with the right candidates. And best of luck to all of you, and hope we are able to help you in your journey. So reach out to us, reach out to Pratik, reach out to Versio team, and we'll get you started. We'll make sure that you reach your goals in terms of your MBA journey.
Thank you so much. This is Pratik signing off.
Thank you, Pratik. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.